The release of Fontaine has massively improved the way that we can gain enhancement ores in Genshin Impact. So in today's guide, I'm gonna show you the newest, most efficient ways to get tons and tons of Mystic Enhancement Ores in no time. So without further ado, let's jump right into it. Now, this video will mostly be about efficient mining because there are some great changes that you definitely shouldn't miss here. However, before we jump into that, let's also quickly go over all the other methods that you can use in addition to mining that help you boost your enhancement ore income even further. And of course, the most obvious thing that would come to mind here is simply exploring the world, opening chests, or completing all sorts of quests, including the limited time events. Pretty much every chest will contain some type of enhancement ore, and most quests also pay you even Mystic Enhancement Ores, among other things. But while exploration and questing are surely nice, they're also pretty inconsistent and can't be done infinitely. So with that being said, let's rather focus on activities that you can repeat on a regular basis, starting out with, of course, your daily commissions. Unlocked at Adventure Rank 12, you ideally want to make sure to log in for 5 minutes and complete these every single day. Depending on your AR, each commission will then pay you out between 0 and 4 Mystic Enhancement Ores, among other valuable items like Primogems, for example. Next, we have another service hosted by the Adventurers Guild, and that would be Expeditions. Once you reach Adventure Rank 12, you can send your characters on these expeditions to gather materials for you while you're AFK. What you want to focus on here would be the Mondstadt and Liyue region because these offer specific expeditions that yield crystal chunks as a reward. And as we'll see here in a minute, these crystal chunks can then be turned into Mystic Enhancement Ores. And while we're at the topic of AFK farming, let's also go and talk about your teapot. This is Genshin Impact's housing system and is unlocked once you're Adventure Rank 28 and have completed the Archon Quest Chapter 1, Act 3. Now, I want to make a dedicated guide on the teapot here in the future, so I'm not going to go into all the nitty-gritty details for now. But what you need to know about the teapot is this. The more new furniture pieces you build inside of it, the higher your trust rank gets. And when you then place more and more of these furnishings, you automatically gain coins called realm currency. Now, why is all of this important? Because once you reach trust rank 8, you can exchange your realm currency for up to 40 Mystic Enhancement Ores every single week. And just to make that very clear, these 40 Mystic Enhancement Ores every week are without you doing anything. You get them completely for free. Another great method, which is not weekly but therefore bi-weekly, would also be clearing the Spiral Abyss. Now, I'm fully aware that this is more for the experienced travelers out there and not so much for fresh beginners. But still, it's a great way to increase your ore income. Finishing floors 1 to 8 will yield you a one-time total of 108 Mystic Enhancement Ores, and from then on, every 2 weeks, you can tackle floors 9 to 12 for a total of 72, among tons and tons of other valuable stuff. But something that is better suited also for beginners would be the Battle Pass. Maxing this out shouldn't be all too difficult if you're somewhat of an active player. And fully completing it will reward you with 96 Mystic Enhancement Ores for the free path and an additional 288 should you decide to buy the Gnostic Hymn. That's a lot. Once you're Adventure Rank 10, you can also buy up to 60 Mystic Enhancement Ores from the Star Glitter shop every month, though I would say unless you're a regular spender, this is not really worth it. And finally, and this is also the big topic of today's video, you can turn different types of crystals into Mystic Enhancement Ores at any blacksmith. So if you want to have the most enhancement ores possible, you gotta go mining for those crystals. And real quick, if this video was helpful to you so far, I would greatly appreciate it if you could maybe spare a like, because it truly helps out the channel a lot. I'm not just saying that, so thank you so much for your support. And now, let's talk about mining. At the blacksmith, we can craft all 3 types of enhancement ores: normal, fine, and mystic ones. However, the Mystic Enhancement Ores are the only viable option here because fine and normal enhancement ores are just too inefficient to build. So, how do we forge our Mystic Enhancement Ores? Well, there are 4 options. You can go and convert 4 of either crystal chunks, amethyst lumps, or condensance crystals into 1 Mystic Enhancement Ore, or, once you reach Adventure Rank 30, you can use original resin plus some magical crystal chunks to get 6 mystics at a time. Now, if you're in a hurry and don't have much time to play on a set day, then quickly logging in and turning all your daily resin into Mystic Enhancement Ores is definitely not a bad idea. But apart from that, I would spend my resin elsewhere and recommend using the other crafting recipes. So, using these 3 types of crystals, the game lets us forge up to 30 Mystic Enhancement Ores per day. Or in other words, we can use up to 120 crystals per day for crafting. Now, one thing you need to know about mining is that any ore deposits you mine will take 3 days in real time to respawn. And while there are some locations where they indeed respawn daily, together with these magical crystal chunks, these spots always change and you'd have to talk to specific NPCs to find out where they are, and it's all in all quite inconvenient. So, long story short, we're not gonna do that. Instead, my mining tactic focuses on 1 run every 3 days, and then you're gonna be good until everything has respawned. Remember when I said we can use up to 120 crystals per day? Since we now go mining only every 3 days, that means we need a total of 360 crystals with a run to be good. And this is exactly where Fontaine makes all the difference. See, before Fontaine, it was possible to mine 360 ores, but you had to spend a lot of time going for even the worst placed ore deposits. But since Fontaine introduced its condensance crystals, we can now also mine them and therefore drop all the inconvenient locations from our map before. This saves a lot of time, and I'm gonna show you the full route right now. But first, which characters do we even put into our mining squad? Of course, the only thing you really need for mining is a claymore character because, as we all know, claymores break ore deposits way quicker than any other weapon type. However, if you really want to squeeze the last second out of your run, there are some additional tips that I can give you. First, if you have her, Yelan is the fastest runner in the game, while Zhongli and Razor both have elemental skills that can insta-crack ore deposits in quite a large AoE, which is extremely useful.
Osmanthus wine tastes the same as I remember.
No, we don't drink while mining. Also, once you've reached Reputation Rank 5 in Inazuma, you'll get access to the Red Feather Fan, which is a gadget that increases your glider speed, getting you from A to B a bit faster when you're in the air. That's also pretty useful. But now, let's finally start mining. Let's begin in the Mondstadt region. Up here, we have 1 ore vein right next to this teleporter. Just walk over there and take whatever you can. On the west side of Cider Lake, we then find our next 2 locations. One right next to the teleporter, and the other further uphill. By the way, if the one next to the teleporter only features 1 crystal chunks and not those magical ores, you could also as well skip it and go uphill directly. Then, between Mondstadt and Dragonspine, there are 2 more locations. The upper one is best accessed from the Statue of the Seven right here, where we also make use of our gliding gadget for the first time, and then the other one is right around the corner from the Valley of Remembrance domain. You can get in from the top or alternatively walk around the side. And that's already it for Mondstadt. Let's continue in Liyue. I personally like to start in Guyun Stone Forest, where the first stop is conveniently right next to this teleporter. Then we teleport to this domain, walk over to the rock with the birds on it, and afterwards right around the corner where we'll find even more crystal chunks. Now, this little island over there does contain quite some crystal chunks too, but I think unless you have a character that can easily run over water, it's just not worth your time. Let's rather go to Liyue now, which has 2 rich crystal locations right next to it. Not a lot I have to explain here, I think. Next, we travel to this teleporter right here, jump off the cliff, and find our next crystal chunks in this little cave. By the way, in case you find this spot inconvenient because of all the enemies, then you can skip it if it spawns without the magical crystal chunks. To the left here, we find another cave, again with enemies, and again skippable if it has no magical crystal chunks. Then back up, use the glider gadget, and make your way over to this cliff right here, which is patrolled by a ruin guard. And as if gliding around wasn't fun enough already, we have 2 more gliding sessions to follow. One right here in the south, and the other one up here where there are quite some crystals hidden behind this little rock. Finally, there is another easy to access spot all the way up in the north. However, if you look down the cliff and only spot one single crystal chunk, you could as well skip this location. And that would conclude Liyue. Next, we visit the one region of Tibet which is probably the most well known for mining, and that would be of course the chasm. First, we'll look at the overworld part, and then we dive into the underground mines. So, along this path, you'll find spot 1, 2, 3, and here to the side, 4. Then, we have a very generous teleporter position right here on the south side with tons of crystals just waiting for you. Same situation here in the middle. And here on the side, you'll have some hilly churls trying to ruin your day. I recommend to just ignore them, take all your stuff, and go. And now, let's take a look at the underground part of the chasms. And I should mention here that yes, while you'll have to finish a quest to even unlock this area, it's absolutely worth it and a vital part of any mining strategy. Reason being that the crystal deposits down here drop around twice as many crystals as the ores in the overworld. So let's go and visit the boss room first. Don't worry, we won't have to fight him. Just quickly fly over here, a great spot for our gadget again, take the crystals and then walk further along here to get these 4 too. Next is the main mining area. Teleport in, make your way over to these deposits, one here, one around the corner, and with the third one, you can either teleport over here or run directly. Doesn't make much of a difference. After that, we'll make our way into the central room. If you've progressed far enough into the story, then this teleporter right here will be available. If not, then just take the next closest one. This spot right here is not that close to any teleporter, but since the crystal deposits down in the caves are so much richer, they're still worth visiting even if it takes a few seconds of running. This one though is, again, generously placed right next to a teleporter. And down here, we make use of our red leaf fan again. Lastly, we take a bit of a walk to access these spots in the chamber right here, and in case you don't want to fight this guy, you can also just walk around the side here and avoid him. And that's it with the chasm. Next, Inazuma. And believe me, I am so happy that Fontaine exists now because Inazuma mining is tedious. I'm so glad I was able to drop a few locations on the Inazuma map. First, Narukami Island. Teleport to the north and walk along the beach. There are quite a few amethyst lumps to find here. Then onto Kamisato Estate, which has one amethyst spot to the north and one to the south. Go and mine both of them. From Konda Village, we can easily reach the next amethysts right here. And I know it's a bit of walking, but I strongly recommend to not skip this spot because it contains a massive 5 amethyst deposits in just one spot. And the last 2 positions we visit here on Narukami Island are located in the cave systems under the fortress right here, and then all the way over here. By the way, Yelan running is just great. Kanazuka is next with 2 locations near this teleporter, this one first, and then we can easily walk over to the neighboring one. This next one here is very conveniently placed, and the final one here is also just one jump away. Now, it's time to pay a visit to High Village. A few amethyst lumps can be found at the small lake, and the rest is located on the other side of the village. You can just ignore the enemies if you want. Now, this one down here is quite a walk away from the Formation Estate, and if after a few runs you find that you're consistently getting more amethyst lumps than you need, then this one would definitely be the first location to remove from your map. On to Watatsumi Island. Teleport to this location right here and make your way down the cliff. You'll find the first and then the second spot here with ease. Then up again and another 3 can be obtained right over here. The next 2 spots are best reached from the Buru Village teleporter. The first one is just one quick glide away to the north, and the other one is in this cave. By the way, if you can't see any magical crystal chunks here, you can as well skip this location because in its regular form, it'll only have one single deposit, which is not worth your time. A few more locations can also be found on Sairai Island, all conveniently placed right next to their respective fast travel points. I'm just gonna run you a fast-forwarded version of all of them at once because there's really not much to say here. Except this one. I'm telling you, this game really hates me. And finally, there's this location here on Tsurumi Island where I recommend to crack these 2 chunks with your weapon so they don't accidentally fall down. Then jump out, and these few here then conclude in Azuma. On to Sumeru. Let's go south to north, starting out at this teleporter right here. The crystals are located at the bottom of the cliff, and I don't know about you, but I kind of feel that they always appear on screen really late. And the fact that I'm even talking about stuff like that should already tell you a lot about how much time I've been spending on mining in Genshin. Anyway, time to visit Partis DI. Fly, crack, next, which would be over here in the form of another little valley. But now it gets more interesting, because this location, this is chaos. Spawn in at the Statue of the Seven, then use your grappling hook to reach the first spot. The next ones though are right next to these nasty plants, and I only now realize how risky it was for me to close in on them with my level 1 razor. Thank you, Zhongli.
Osmanthus.
No! Shut up! And these 2 in the hilly trail camp up here would then conclude this spot. Feel free to revenge kill anything that moves afterwards. This cliff over here is fun. It has a ton of crystals, and the extra fun challenge is making sure none of them fall down. And finally, we teleport over here to find a couple of spread out crystal chunks along this path down here. And while I agree that Inazuma and Sumeru are a bit tedious to mine, Fontaine now is actually really fun. Let's take a look at that. First, in the south here, you'll find 2 easy to access spots. By the way, Venti and Kazuha make jumping extra neat. Then, 2 more over here, don't get eaten by the digger, 1 more all the way left on this little plateau, and now we can go swimming. Teleport to the shore, dive in, and you'll find these little blue crabs. Attack one of them to get the detonation ability, and now any underwater crystal is a 1-hit. Try it out in the underwater cave right around the corner because there are tons of condensance crystals to find here. Then go to the teleporter right next to it and access all surrounding crystal deposits from there, like I show here in the background. Now, back on land to the court region. The first few locations are in this valley right next to the city, and having a fast runner here is very beneficial. Next would be the Makot station, which has a few condensance crystals at the bottom of this cliff here. And after that, we visit this statue and grab these 2 locations as well. Afterwards, we visit the Central Laboratory ruins, where we'll find more crystals near the cliffs. Either grab all 4 of them in one go, or use both teleporters like I show here. Then there are 2 more locations right to the teleporters on the northern shore, which are way too conveniently placed to be ignored. And these few on the mountain at the very northern border of the map then conclude the whole mining run. All in all, this mining run should take you around 45 minutes. But given that you only have to do it once every 3 days, I think it shouldn't be too bad. In fact, all those videos out there telling you that you can get hundreds of enhancement ores in just 5 minutes every day are simply lying. This right here, according to my personal testing, is currently the most efficient farming route in the game and should give you at least 200 crystal chunks, 80 amethyst lumps, and another 80 condensance crystals. This then would be exactly enough for 3 days of forging. However, with the additional income from your expeditions, chances are you could even go and cut 1 or 2 locations. But if you're actively farming enhancement ores, then chances are you're still somewhat new in the game. And if that's the case, then you absolutely have to check out my top beginner tips right here. I hope to see you all in the next one, and until then, as always, travel smart.